Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Welcome back to the show, where we interview the nation's leading real estate entrepreneurs. It's your host back at it again, Stephen Schmidt, in the house, and I got a real special treat with you guys. I got the guy whose name I didn't have to ask to pronounce because it's actually an easier one for me. I got Jake Knight in the studio today, and we're going to have an absolutely wonderful conversation. Jake has an incredible background. He brings 22 years of real estate and spirit, starting out in the lending space, and then back in 2017, started investing full-time. He's done a ton of flip properties in the Bay Area, down in where he's located here in California. And we're going to get into talking about hard money today and the lending process. It's something he's really focusing on now, and then building out his portfolio to buy and hold for the retirement plan. So I'm sure you guys are going to get a ton of value out of this. But before we get started, just remember, at Investor Fuel, we help real estate entrepreneurs, service providers, and real estate professionals 2 to 5x their businesses so they can build the businesses they've always wanted in order to live the lives they've always dreamed of. That being said, Jake, welcome to the show today.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
You bet, man. I'm really excited to get into our topic today because I talk to quite a few lenders, but not a lot that I talk to specifically about like the hard money, private money space. So I'm really interested in gleaning some insights from you for our listeners here today. But for everybody's benefit, I know we had some time to chat pre-show, but can you give us a little bit of your background, what got you started in the real estate space, and some of the evolutions that you've been through over the last 22 years and how you got to where you're at now?
Absolutely. So I started about maybe 22 years ago, around 2002, 2003, right out of high school. Right before I got into the business, I wanted to be a real estate investor. And so my mom and I were both getting into real estate at the same time. We were going to some Rich Dad Poor Dad seminars, reading the books that were out, which were probably only like 5 maybe that I could get my hands on. There wasn't a whole lot of content. This was really pre-internet, that we know it. So there's only so many resources. Sure. And I didn't know what a RIA was. I didn't know about networking other than going to seminars. So being kind of young and not really sure of myself, and I just didn't really know how to go about it, right? I didn't know what to do with the information that I was reading. So I got a job working in the mortgage business to learn how to do a real estate deal. And that ended up turning into my career at the time. I was doing well. This is kind of the run up before the crash. Real estate was smoking hot. You really couldn't go wrong. So I thought I had found my place in my career. And then the crash happened. I was spit out. I was laid off 3 times in actually 2007. So 2008, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I started going back to school. I moved to New York for a little bit. Got a job doing tech sales for a couple years, and then realized I didn't feel like I was in the place I wanted to be. So got back into lending and wanted to get out of residential because everybody I knew was getting laid off again and again and moving from company to company. And it just didn't seem like a great life. So I got a job in commercial lending and became an underwriter. So I was responsible for looking at business loans, multifamily loans, that kind of thing, making credit decisions. And then it was around 2016 that I had discovered Bigger Pockets.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
And turnkey investing and all these things, and my mind just went crazy. I just went all in to learn how to do it. I wish I had seen it sooner. That's one regret. We all have regrets in real estate investing, but one of them was not even just figuring out what wholesaling was. In 2012, for example, could have done really well with that. But, I found my place. I try not to dwell on it too much. So I started trying to find deals and networking and consuming anything I could that was investing related. And finally did a deal, did another deal, did a third deal, and was able to leave my full-time job around 2017. And since then, I've done maybe 90 something projects, which is a lot of fix and flips around the Bay Area and Sacramento. I've also bought rentals and flips across the country. And then fast forward to recently, I want to get back into lending. I always like doing it. And as an investor, I've done a ton of hard money and PSCR loans for my own deals. So when I wanted to get back in lending, it was only this side of lending that I wanted to do. I didn't want to do any conventional loans working with consumers. I wanted to be able to offer value to other investors because of my own experience in lending and as an investor. I thought that was really where I wanted to be. So now I work with a company called Conventus. They're based in San Francisco, but we're a nationwide hard money lender, really competitive pricing for experienced investors. I'll still do some investing here and there, but the deals I can buy now, I'll be able to hold them all versus flipping most of what I bought, which was really how I, paid the bills and everything. So, so that's where we're at now.
Wow. Now, so when you started getting back into lending, are you doing primarily that through an institution? Is this your own money? Are you managing other people's money? Tell us a little bit about your structure right now and kind of what maybe your ideal lendee would be too.
Absolutely. So I work for a national hard money lending company. I'm a loan officer there, so I'm responsible for basically business development, among other loan officers that work there as well. We're all responsible. We're the sales force, basically. So we're lending through our company, nothing in my personal funds or anything like that. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So who are like the perfect people that you want to work with the most?
It's basically investors like I was or like I am. It's basically people who are fixing and flipping, buying rental properties, doing ground up construction, or like single family or multifamily, small subdivisions, or multifamily, whether they're using a bridge loan for multifamily to buy it before stabilizing it, or if they've already stabilized it and they want to get a long-term loan, that's another product we have. So it's really the residential investor prototype. That's our client.
Okay. Now, so with your own real estate investing journey and what you're working towards as far as, buying and actually holding all the properties versus buying and selling them to, put food on the table, whatever that looks like lifestyle wise, right? What's going to be your strategy for that? Are you currently buying properties looking for deals or what's kind of your end game with that?
Point where I'm going to take a little time off. I still have some deals in the pipeline that are mostly completed and or are for sale already on the market. I have one more that we just got the keys to. So, but I really want to focus my time on the lending business. So when I do come across properties, it'll be through existing realtor relationships, maybe some marketing that I've already put out into the world that will come in.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
And I'll probably kind of recalibrate in the next 6 months or so, figure out how I want to approach it. What's my strategy? Every once in a while we kind of pivot a little bit, right? Like what I was doing in 2022 is different than 2024 and different than when it was 2016. So I have some ideas on what I want to do, but I'm not completely sure yet. Co-living model, buying a house on terms and doing some co-living stuff sounds interesting, but that may be a phase that I get over in a few months. I'm not sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's kind of like the world's your oyster at this point.
Yeah.
Now, one of the interesting things about you, though, that you have, which I find is a trend for people that are in California, right? Because of the market in California. But you find a lot of people that are in Cali that are also investing in other states versus like a smaller, market, let's say, like your Birmingham, Alabama market, for example, where it's like it's big, but like you could still find good deals in it, right, under the median, et cetera. What attracted you to investing in some of those other properties, flips, rentals, et cetera, in other states? And what was your strategy doing that versus it being all local?
Yeah, I had a couple properties that I had kept locally, ended up selling them, to invest in other properties. But what appealed to me out of state was, especially with the first one, obviously the lower price points where the rent ratios made a lot more sense. I could I could find a deal and basically renovate it, refinance it, and get all of my capital out, or maybe just leave a little bit still in the deal. But when you leave that little money in the deal, your ROI is really high. So I was able to find deals in a bunch of different markets. I was a little bit different. I didn't focus on like one or two markets and say I'm going to go deep into these markets. I went a little more broad and really tried to find the better deals and then learn how to build a team in that market, for example, which I think is not as hard as people make it out to be. But my goal with those was find good cash flow numbers and just acquire more real estate more quickly than if I had bought one property in California, which, it's just math. If you're buying a four, 500 or $600,000 property in California, if you bought three of those out of state, your rent ratios look a lot better with the ones out of state. So your money goes further. And it's just, yeah, I found it not too difficult to explore a new market, find a property, get it rehabbed, and get it under management as soon as possible.
Sure. This actually brings up a interesting question that I kind of have personally that I find is a trend too in places that are more of like a rural market. And this actually is going to relate more to what you do like on the lending side of things. But in those rural markets, why is it so much harder or more challenging, let's say maybe, to get proper funding to be able to take projects on? I know a lot of like think small town USA, right? Like why is it that lenders are a little more hesitant to give in those areas on deals? Is it just because of the volatility of not as many people, or what are some of those insights that you could share?
Yeah, and personally, I've only ever bought one rural deal, and I bought it with private financing, right? Somebody in my network, a person, not a company. So I don't have a ton of experience lending or buying in rural areas, but I do believe that it's like the lack of population. You don't have, you don't have a lot of population growth. You don't have a lot of job growth. So you could, if the house goes vacant, the higher likelihood that, maybe it goes vacant for 6 months versus, 3 weeks. The data is also more readily available in a bigger market, right? You know what the vacancy rates are. You have better access to labor. in the urban markets. So there's a few things like that. A lot of it has to do with just the lack of population or growth.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let me ask you this. What gets you excited about what you're doing right now as a loan officer, and what do you really see in that space, especially with everything we've gone through the past 3 years and kind of what's moving forward? What are you seeing on the horizon in the arena?
Yeah, the private lending industry is expanding a lot. There's a lot of new players in the game. Companies are getting more competitive, which is great news for borrowers, especially on the fix and flip side. The rental side, what we call the DSCR side, the debt service coverage ratio, that's the primary loan product for rental properties. It's a little more rate sensitive, and right now rates are a little bit high here in June of 2025. Most people listening to this know that if they're shopping or refinance, it's quite painful right now. But I'm excited also with the opportunity to connect with a lot of other investors. The company I work for is very competitive with our pricing, and I believe if you're in sales, it's a lot more enjoyable when you're selling a product you can get behind. And I had been a borrower of this company a few times, and realized that I like working with them way more than I did with other lenders. So I'm excited to kind of now offer that product to other investors, right? Speak the language with them.
Sure.
So that's why I'm excited.
Yeah, 100%. What's your strategy for building long-term relationships in the business? I mean, you mentioned, wanting to connect with more investors and whatnot, and I think you make a valuable point of it's so much easier to do sales for something that you've also had a personal experience with, because you are able to actually relate just on a much deeper level of someone that just kind of has a book understanding of it. So what's your secret to actually building those relationships?
A lot of it's in person when possible, right? Going to lunches, going to the events, and going a little above and beyond that, right? Like visiting investors or builders at the job site when possible. I think just the in-person thing goes, so much further in developing that relationship. Now, I'll still work with investors out of the area, out of driving distance, or even nationwide. But I think my favorite strategy of connecting and building relationships is always just, face to face, when possible. So whenever I do cold outreach to local investors, I try to include that, hey, I'm local, would love to, meet up or, take you to a coffee or something if that's, of interest to you. And also, when I was an investor, borrowing from my lenders, that was never offered to me. And I probably would have taken it, right? I mean, just to have a better relationship with your banks or your lenders usually can benefit you. But most of my lenders were, I had to bug them to get a call back or to answer my call. Even if I was doing multiple loans at them at a time, it was, I was just a number for them, it seemed like.
Why do you think that was?
Some of them, worked at really big companies, and I don't think they were incentivized to really, go deep into the relationship. It was more of a numbers thing for them. Or maybe they just hadn't really been in, a relationship manager role before. And so it was never really taught, they were never really taught to go out and kind of build relationships, right? It was just more of a numbers game. And I've been in different sales roles in my career, and I've had some corporate training for sales for the C-suite and everything. So luckily I've kind of had that training formally. And so I think that gives me an advantage, but I can't really speak for what their ideas were. Maybe it just didn't, maybe their incentives weren't in place to do that. Their incentives were just to be on the phone all day or something.
Yeah. How many do you have quite a bit of local groups in your area? That's kind of one of the things I find with a lot of different people that I speak with is local is
Yeah.
great, but a lot of times people have to go like outside their area to make those relationships. And I mean, with what you do, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I mean, you can theoretically lend to pretty much almost anybody in the nation, right?
I can. I think we're in 48 states. And so, yeah, I mean, most of the country is wide open. I can work with you. And I have, maybe half a dozen, events, monthly events, within a driving range, a comfortable driving range at least. I'm also going to launch, a couple of local events. And one, I live in a city with almost 200,000 people, and there's not a single investor meetup. So I'll be hosting my first event this month and maybe launching one or two others that are a little bit, maybe like an hour and a half away from me, which I also realized that there's no regular meetings there, but they're well populated areas. So I think, any dense suburban or urban area, there's going to have, a lot of investors and people who are interested in investing. And so they just need somebody to set it up and they'll come.
Right. So you're saying that even where you're at, as big as it is, there's not there's almost nothing that is being hosted right now for like actual investors.
Yeah, so I live in the Sacramento metro. In Sacramento,
Yeah.
there's probably four or five regular ones that have been around for a while, but I live on an adjacent city,
Hmm.
in an adjacent city. And in my city has 200,000 people, but no meetup. So the closest
Wow.
meetup is a good 30-minute drive into the Sacramento area in northern Sacramento. So, there's, even if I went to the next meetup and just kind of drew a map, there's probably 300,000 or 400,000 people, um, that are not going to a regular meetup, or maybe they don't have one close to them, is what I'm saying.
No kidding. That's wild.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in like any national groups or you like go to conferences? I mean, how important is like mentorship been to you as in your journey? Or have you just gotten that through where
Yeah.
you've worked and locally?
I used to, probably pre-COVID, I was more active, in like kind of national stuff. I don't think I ever have flown anywhere outside of California. I've been to like San Diego, maybe.
Sure.
I never really went to like the bigger ones, like the bigger pockets, summits, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
I was really active locally pre-COVID, and then when COVID hit, I moved to this area. And after COVID, I don't think there was anything going on for a good year or more. And then
Right.
I was just busy working, and I kind of, was just focusing on, my family and running a business and everything. And I started some other businesses that didn't work out, but, so I just recently got back into it. I was like thinking, why did I take so much time off from networking? Even if you don't have any specific things to sell or any specific needs, there's still so much to gain from them, so much you can learn, and just knowing that, the people, you make friendships. So there's so much more to it. And I wish I had not taken a break from it.
Man, that's really interesting. I think a lot of times what I found too is when you are kind of figuring things out and you haven't been in an established business for, years and years and years and years, and then you have something like COVID happen, it is a lot easier to kind of stick to yourself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because it's
Right.
like, well, I don't have anything to sell, so what's worth the time? But you never know who you're going to end up meeting in one of those rooms, right?
100%. I'm a big believer in that. I wouldn't have been able to get my investing career started without, a few of the local meetups where I was living at the time. And they were just
Sure.
instrumental in my career.
Right. And I mean, you mentioned bigger pockets, as being like a really instrumental thing for you back in the beginning when you started on the investing side. What was it like when you started that and you started listening to bigger pockets and then you were like, oh my gosh, how was I missing this for years?
I think a lot of your listeners, no matter what level they are, have gone through what I went through, which is that excitement, that adrenaline, that, vision of, my future will be a lot different than I had planned. Um,
Sure.
and so I vividly remember, I think about it sometimes, like how my life changed. Cause right before that, I was, working a desk job. I was still trying to get my degree in mid 30s, not really sure what I was going to do with the rest of my life, even though I was like almost halfway through it. So even just the idea of becoming an investor and all the benefits that came with it, my world was changed. And I just was like committed. I have to make this thing work. You know, you get like self-doubt sometimes, like maybe I won't, maybe I'll fail. And, you know, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. But once you get that first deal and if it goes well or well enough, then you have a lot more confidence and you can really just, you know, go full speed.
Sure, you bet. If you had to go back to the beginning when you got started, and let's just take it to like 2017, right? Because you've kind of evolved through the years. If you had to go back to when you got started in investing and you knew what you know today and you could take that back with you, what would you have done differently and what would you have done the same?
I would have probably, I mean, obviously with the benefit of hindsight, I would have gone harder, faster. I say that only because I know that market was gonna keep going hot for another 8 years or so. But at the time, I thought we were at a peak again because it had been, you know, I don't know, 6 to 8 years since the crash, depending on when you considered it to be at the bottom. And I kept telling my wife, I think, you know, we could be at a peak again. It may go down again. I don't know. So I was still kind of cautious and not just like going all in. And so that would have been what I've done differently. I would have just said, buy more of these things. And in the Bay Area where I was living and working mostly, there was so much appreciation that I probably passed on deals that I could have done and probably could have, you know, made good money on. But I've always been a little bit more conservative with my underwriting, you know, scared to lose money. So I passed on a lot of stuff. That's another regret. It's just like, I should have done more deals. I should have done these things that I thought were not home runs. You know, triples are fine, doubles are fine. So, and the second part of the question was, remind me again,
What would you have done the same?
what I've done the same. Um, Man, I think what I did that I liked and that I wouldn't have changed was that for the first few deals, I joint ventured with more experienced investors, and that was a way for me to learn and earn, keep myself safe, keep our money safe. We didn't have a lot of money at the time, so it was kind of like, this is, you know, this better work. And I think that was like the right thing to do. I don't remember, you know, who taught me to do that or if I just kind of figured that out on my own, but I just found a few investors through the meetings and they were willing to work with me. $5 deal, let me split it. But I got to see how they found contractors, how they renovated it. I could ask them questions, you know, it was an open phone line with them. So I think I did my first 3 deals with partners. And that was something that I think all new investors should do.
Great. Find somebody you trust to cut your learning curve in half. That's really what it comes down to, right?
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, Jake, thanks so much for joining us. If people want to learn more about you, what you're working on, where should they go for that?
They can go to Inventus or cblending.com, or we can put my email address and phone number here in the show notes if that's okay.
There you go. Yeah, you bet. Awesome. Well, thanks again for being here, man. If anybody wants to connect with him, go do that, and we'll get you plugged in. Show them some love from the Fuel family and the Real Estate Pros. And we hope you got as much out of this episode as I did. And we'll see you in the next episode, folks. Thanks again for being here, Jake.
Thanks, Tina.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.